Welcome back, everyone. This is our second episode of the day. As I had said the other day, we're having a triple threat. This is my second guest on Share Your Journey Live. This is Gillian Utesch. Gillian, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate you taking time out.
So excited. I love to be here and meet new folks and hear about their journey as well as share about my journey.
Great. Well, I'm glad you're here. So we're going to jump right into it because, as you know, I don't give you much time to share your journey, but that gives me an excuse to have you back. So it's like a twofold kind of thing. So for those people that don't know you yet, how would you describe yourself? And because we are in a travel group, where did you grow up?
I am painfully introverted, which I realize is a surprise for most people. When they meet me, when they converse with me, they think I'm just out of control extrovert, but it's so hard to be, not only in my local community, but especially in a place that are outside my comfort zone, and then heaven forbid try to engage with people, random strangers, when I'm in those places. That just seems like a mountain to me. I'm from North Carolina, and I have lived here my whole life. That shouldn't be surprising with my introvert.
North Carolina, good place. I'll have to come see you. We have a beach house down in the Outer Banks, so I'll have to put you on my list to come visit. Okay, all right.
Please do.
Yeah. All right, so let's see. So we got that out of the way. So I was like, okay, she's an introvert, but doesn't really match because she's really outgoing, but kind of like that oxymoron. So I know this is difficult, but thank you. Okay, so as you know, in this group, we do obviously talk about travel, but I like to honor every kind of journey because truthfully, that's what travel is really about. It's not just the places we go, but the path that leads us there. And I do believe that your journey, as well as everyone else that I've had on the path that you have traveled, just may inspire someone else to take their first step. So I think it's really important. Do you mind sharing your journey on how you became to be the CEO of Glass Ceiling Marketing Group and founder of your podcast?
It was all by accident, which I feel like is so many people's journey. I was a traditional marketer for 20 years. I had a great business, a great clientele, a great work-life balance. I truly asked for nothing else. Then COVID came along and redefined everything in my life, as I feel like it's done for a lot of people. And there's a quote, I'm going to butcher it, but it talks about storms. Storms come to get things out of your world that you don't need and clear a path for the place you need to go. So I kept trying to realize that, okay, COVID came to clear a path for where I needed to go. I just didn't know where that was. And at that point, I was trying to get my business back online that had been successful for 20 years. And it was just not happening, which was frustrating because I was used to being top of the class. This revenue, all this accolade in my industry for excelling at this and that, and to not even be able to get out of first gear was just crippling to me in every capacity. And so I hired a business coach and said, hey, what can I do? I can admit that I don't know everything. What do I need to do? And she just said I needed to network. I needed to meet people. I needed to in person and at networking groups or online through LinkedIn or through outbound emails. And the thought of that just it felt visceral. I would have rather lived under a bridge with a cat clawing my skin off than the thought of randomly reaching out to people online. How do I even do that? How does one even do that? How do I know? Like, to say nothing of the carpal tunnel from all the clicking and all the pecking to find people, none of it fit me. And I said no. One thing learned in COVID was to be true to myself and that the world would keep spinning. I didn't have to do all these things every day that I thought I had to do pre-COVID, or the world would stop spinning. I can go to bed with dishes in the sink. I don't have to go to every fundraiser. I don't have to be the class mom for every activity. And the world keeps going. It's amazing. I'm not as important as I thought I was. So I kind of tried to take that into this part of my journey and stay true to myself and say, okay, I'm going to find a way and it's going to be okay. Well, months go by and my business does not come back online. Months go by, money is running out, money is getting into credit lines. It was just a bad situation. And so I said, you know what? Let me do something completely different. That's what COVID did. COVID came in and it made us live completely different lives. Let me try that in this scenario. So I started exploring virtual assistants. And the very first virtual assistant that I hired, Jean, has proven to be just instrumental in the success of my company, my podcast, now my 501c3 that we're able to work with. And so it reminded me of, God has a bigger path for your journey than you time. So I'm glad I met him as a virtual assistant and started working with him, and he kind of did the legwork for me. But then I realized of finding new folks and reaching out and all that. But then I realized this is not scalable, nor is it happening fast enough. Because Wells Fargo comes around and wants their money a little faster than we can usually as entrepreneurs bring the money in. So I just kind of went back to my inner self and said, okay, self, what can we do differently? What crazy idea can we come up with? And at that time, ChatGPT wasn't a thing. AI was definitely not what it is now. And so I dreamed a dream that AI would do these tasks for me, but do them in a way that still felt human and authentic. I then set out on a journey, which blessed Jean at that time for being right beside me, giving me water when I needed it, the face I needed it. Kind of keep saving me from myself as I would come up with these rabbit holes. I think it's all on that North Star. And so we went down this journey of building our own AI software, which even as I say it, sounds insane to me because I am not techie. I know nothing about building software, but I knew in my mind how I wanted it to work. I knew from a marketing perspective the function I wanted it to have. So I drew it in Canva, the dashboard, how I wanted it to work, and went to a developer and said, hey, can you build this? Oh, wow. And tons and tons of money later, and tons of months later, we had the first version of Dash. And I originally was just going to use it for me. This was just to get my company back online in a way that felt okay to my soul. Because I didn't want to do these essential but repetitive tasks of finding new clients. And so it was worth it at that point. Well, then I had colleagues say, well, if you hadn't back online, like, what do you? I was like, oh, I've got this little toy, this little software thing I got, like, it's kind of silly. And then I started showing people, and they're like, oh my God, that would work for my business. And then it was like, okay, how can we make this scalable? And at that point, it had nothing to do with profit for me. It only had to do with saving. I could see in their eyes they were going through the same internal struggle. You have a gift, a talent, a message, something you want to do with your business, but you can't do it because there's this barrier in the way. And to be able to remove that barrier for people and free them and see their little wings open and live their entrepreneur dream, that to me that was the best thing. So started doing that, and then I thought it would only be used for entrepreneurs, soulpreneurs, basically myself, because we all see the world through our lens and our journey. And after I started making it available for subscribers, then we had folks use it who were individual contributors at larger companies. They maybe worked at Lenovo or State Farm or places like that, and I thought, this is crazy. Why are you paying out of your own pocket? And it's $1,000 a month per seat on our platform. So it's not crazy, but it's not a Starbucks coffee either. And so for people to pay out of their own paycheck, I was very intrigued. So I started really digging into why people were doing this. And I realized they were doing it for the same reason that entrepreneurs are doing it. they had the same tasks on their plate that were keeping them in the office late, that were keeping them away from soccer games, that were stressing them out, taking their mental bandwidth, and they just wanted those tasks off their plate. Same thing. So, okay, that makes sense. Well, then fast forward towards the end of the year last year, and not to get political, but, the job market shifted, we'll say, and there were a lot of people looking for employment, which really broke my heart because I was a small business. I couldn't hire everyone that was unemployed, which was my first reaction. Just come work for me. I'll give you a job. I don't want you to be here, because I knew what it felt like. You emotionally feel drained. You don't feel like you have a place in society, because at every cocktail party people say, what is your job? What do you do? And you're like, I'm unemployed. Like, that feeling in there. And so I thought, well, how could I help? And it clicked in my mind. Looking for a job is no different than looking for clients. It's all in networking. And then I started really getting into the statistics and reaching out to employment agencies and staffing companies and figuring out, how does it really work? And I realized the average person would send out about 3,000 resumes over the course of 3 months before they would get hired for a job. That's crazy to me, to say nothing of the emotional drain and how hard those folks must have had to hype themselves up every morning to be like, let's do it again. Let's send out 100 more resumes and hope one of these sticks. That's a horrible way to live. And I realized that my software could help them by connecting them with the companies and the contacts at those companies that they want to work with, because 70% of jobs are filled before they even hit the job board. Because they reach out, they go, hey, Stacy, hey, girl, who do you know that has these qualifications? I've got this position I need to get filled. And you go, oh, I got these 3 friends. Boom, boom, boom. 2 weeks' time, we've got it filled. It never hit a job board. And so the very qualified applicants who are dependent on the job board because they're introverts or they're neurodivergent or they just don't have the network, we're getting skipped over for these jobs. So we really then started trying to shift our platform and educating users how to use it in that way. So it has been nice to see how it has shifted over time to fit not only the needs of our different users, but the needs of our different climate that we're in, whether we're in a ramp-up climate where everyone's getting new clients, or in a different climate where we're all looking for different jobs, or we're trying to kind of do a shuffle around. So I'd like to see how it has had that transition. And then that kind of led to my podcast. I started a Superwoman Handbook 15 years ago as just a journal to myself, kind of like did not have a plan for it. It was not going worldwide. That was not my plan at all. It was just a journal to myself to help thoughts and things organized. For example, it said, not everything. That was the notation in a Superwoman Handbook. We had gone to brunch with some girlfriends, and one of our girlfriends was noticeably absent. And I had kind of had a little kerfluffle with her the day before. You know how we can be girls even to the love in our circle. And I realized the next, gosh, I bet she didn't come to brunch today because of what I said yesterday. And my other girlfriend that I expressed these feelings to, without even putting her margarita down, she says, it's not all about you. She didn't come to brunch today because she didn't come to brunch today. What's going on in her life? She may be puking up from last night. Her mom may be in the hospital. Her car may have a flat tire. Don't think it's all about you. It just washed over me, and I was like, I need to remember this. So I wrote it down. And then translate that to snippets I wrote down over the next few years because I needed them. And then I was looking through it, and I thought, let's make this a book. But it wasn't a thing. And so I just really felt this calling from God that the timing was right, back on the shelf, which was the hardest message for me to receive because I've worked so hard on it. I put so much passion into it. I so wanted to bring this content to the world to help people the way it had helped me, and to feel like I was being told, and as a devoted servant, I thought, okay, I'm going to put it back on the shelf. And I did. And then I forgot about it. As life goes on, life is a 4-letter word. We have kids, dogs, wine, work, all these things. And so I forgot about it. We moved 2 years ago, and it literally burst out of a box I wasn't intending to open. I knew all the boxes that I had, the things I used readily, trying to get to those, and this box just literally threw itself off the shelf. And the print proof of the book came out. And I thought, oh, there you are, little sample. There you are. I wasn't sure where I'd get you, and now you're it. And because it was in my face, I knew, okay, I need to deal with this now. How do I deal with it? And at this time, given just our current, a little bit easier and more robust way to address this than just a printed book. So I reached out to my inner circle of friends and said, hey, I love your story. I have a girlfriend who adopted a special needs child as a single mom because she felt called to do that. I had another who moved to Portugal because the U.S. wouldn't cover her ailment. Just these really brave stories. And I thought, I want to share these stories because there's someone at home at a kitchen table thinking that they're all alone because they share this story.
Yes.
And I thought it was just going to be an internal project that I would give our daughter her 18th birthday at the end of the year. And I thought, there's nothing I can buy her because she's spoiled as it is. Let me give her content. Let me give her knowledge. Let me give her this verbal diary of women who've lived these stories so that if she feels that she's in this place at any point in her life, she can just listen to that particular and get the advice. So that's what I thought, but that was not the plan. It took on a life of its own and became a podcast that's internationally and very humbling to me. Realize I'm not special. It's not all about me. I hear the stories from women in Australia that mirror those from the women in the Netherlands. We're all on the same journey. We're all on the same, on our own trajectories in very similar but different ways. And it's just so good to be reminded to band together. Don't think, just because they're in Australia, they can't possibly understand. They don't have the same struggles I do. They do. They're just in different ways. So it's been very, very humbling and also a huge honor to hear their stories.
Wow, that's amazing. That is some journey, and we're going to have you come back because I think we have to do two parts. One, focusing on the marketing business, and then also the podcast. So I hope you'll be open to that. I would
love that.
Good. I can't wait for you to come back and talk more because I definitely feel that your podcast, our members could really, really benefit from that. Well, I always ask my guests really quickly because I guess we only have a few minutes left. Is there a life lesson or something that you may want to say to our members who want to maybe make their daydream into reality, whatever it may be? Could you say something that maybe you held on to when you started yours, even though yours was unplanned?
It's be true to yourself, be honest to yourself. And for me, what that looked like was being purposeful. I knew that the way I wanted to spend my time and my energy to be honest and true to myself, all of those actions and choices had to be purposeful. Not just saying yes because I felt like I had to be a people pleaser, or not just saying yes because I felt like it was a thing to do or I felt socially obligated. It had to be purposeful. And I didn't know what that meant. I just knew when I came up with that, it felt just this warm wave came over me. And so with each decision that I've come across with my business, with my podcast, with my 501c3, I do that check-in and I ask myself, is this purposeful? Am I doing this just because I can, because I have the staff, the money, the bandwidth, or am I doing it because it's purposeful? And so I still continue to hold myself accountable, but I'm true to myself. If you're true to yourself, you can do anything, and you always know the direction to go.
Wow, I couldn't have said that better. I think that is amazing because when you do have purpose, it does make it easier to go ahead and take that first step. Well, thank you so much for sharing your journey with us. Like I said, that's what travel is all about. You know, the path that leads us to that destination or wherever you might be going in life. So whether it's messy or magical, I certainly want to hear your journey. For those of you who have not already scheduled with me, join Gillian and others. Thank you all for being here today. And we have our last guest, Christine Chain. She will be on at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.